Hey, everybody, this is John, and with me, as always, is my boy Matt.
What's up?
So, today's episode, we're going to be talking about Predator. And again, this is going to be a series. It's going to be on Predator, and then Alien is going to be the next episode, of course. So, the biggest thing we're going to be talking about today is like the appearance, like the language, of like how they communicate with each other, the media that they're a part of. So, like the of course the movies and like actually there's going to be a game we're going to mention that both Matt and I have played, and kind of our own video game experience on that, and just kind of like the overall like origin of the Predator as well as the Alien in the next episode. So again, I'm not an expert, and I know I'm going to consider Matt right now the SME, right, or the subject matter expert. I mean, because I know he did his own kind of compiling research on the whole thing, but if we're gonna compare like who knows more about it, I'm gonna give Matt to this one because I know, of course, like pop culture references. I know certain things like that, but I'm not gonna be like, yeah, let me tell you all about so and so. I'm like, you got me, bud. That's why I may not know everything, but I'm always willing to learn something new. So Matt, I'm gonna let you take the floor now.
All right. Actually, before we start, I did have like kind of an interesting experience in the McDonald's drive-through before, probably like an hour ago before, I was on my way here to record the podcast. So, going through the drive-through, of course, I get all the way to where they hand out the food and they tell me, can you park over in that number one spot? I'm like, okay, well, great. Now it's going to take me another 15 minutes to actually get my food, you know, typical. So as I'm waiting there, some guy from McDonald's comes out, hands me my bag, and he's kind of like, I'm expecting him to like turn around and go back in, like, you know, they normally do.
Right, because I mean, you're already waiting 15 minutes now. There's, again, it's now turning into like a 30-minute order, which shouldn't have taken this long to begin with. But
I mean, it wasn't like, it probably was like 2 or 3 minutes, but, anyways, he's not like going back in. He's staring at Sergey, who's, he's actually a 6 foot skeleton that sits in the back seat of my car.
right, so again, not a real person. Let's get that clear.
Right. And so he turns back to me and he goes, "Excuse me, sir, but does your license plate, is it a Star Wars Stormtrooper designation?" And instantly, I am both surprised and excited all in the same time because I've had this license plate for a little over a year now. And he is the one singular person who like fully understands what my license plate is.
And I will mention that this story is actually a lot more explicit in some ways, but not as bad. That's why we kept a PG version here right now. Um, I guess my question to you is then, for the sole purpose, like, of someone now recognizing it, like, I guess for everyone probably is like, why did it really take this long? Because I would have thought there'd be more geeks out there.
It's one of those funny things because I bought a wiper tag. If you don't know what they are, you can just Google wiper tag, and they have their own website. You can buy these wiper tags. They cover your back wipers. You could buy, lightsabers. You can buy ones that have waving arms. Like they have all kinds of crazy ones. But I bought a red lightsaber. I have a sticker on the back of my window that says Galactic Empire Stormtrooper Corps with a Stormtrooper helmet. And I have a Dodge Caliber. If you don't know what they look like, it looks like a Stormtrooper helmet on wheels.
I mean, if we're gonna talk about like the fanatic system, like the just in general of like his car, because of course I've seen it multiple times. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's got everyone beat when it comes to like the Empire wise, because I don't know of too many people that would actually go that far out to like actually create like another like image of one. You know what I mean? Because I don't see that too often. I mean, like on the back of my truck, I got like the American flag. I got like certain things that are attached with it, and of course I have like a Captain America shield. It's my dog, just saying. And I try to do something different, but like I don't know if I'll go full out like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna make my truck the Avengers thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it would be really cool, like to have like certain designs. But I mean, me personally, I think you got me beat on that. Like, it's just straight up.
Well, I mean, the wiper tag is cool, obviously, because the wiper goes back and forth, and it's a lightsaber, so it goes back and forth. It's cool, you know. The sticker is just a sticker, but I didn't design the shape of the car. But
No.
the license plate itself, I mean, it's not like a Star Wars designation. It's one that I created from my kids' birth dates, and an actual it's TK, which is one of the beginning parts of a designation.
Yeah. So I mean, again,
I
you created
created
your
my
own.
own designation, but for this one guy to recognize it kind of made my day, because it was like, finally, I don't like, people have asked me like, oh, what does this mean? It's like, I can't even begin to explain it, because you're not gonna like, you're gonna look at me with that glazed look in your eye that I know you're not even like, you've stopped listening to me like 10 minutes ago,
Yeah,
probably like an hour before I even started explaining it to you. You stopped listening to me.
that sounds about right.
So let's just move on from this and forget that you even saw my license plate.
I mean, again, if you, I mean, like I said too, is like unless you're an actual Star Wars, I'm not saying fanatic, but like an actual like person that is enjoying the movies and enjoying like the lore and everything else. Of course, you're not going to know anything about it unless you. Oh wait, open your eyes maybe and look at the fact that it says stormtroopers. The like the well, you, again, really just like the Empire itself, right? Like just looking at the whole thing. I mean, if you didn't know, I don't know. I mean, Episode 4, I know came out what late 70s, right? Something like that.
80.
80.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Anyways, it doesn't matter. The point is though is that if you didn't really know what that movie was, I'm sorry, you were living under a rock at that time because it was
Yeah.
pretty popular back in the day. I'm just saying.
I mean, unrelated though. I mean, the license plate I had before was Third Day. It was third dash day, and I'll say it because it's not my license plate anymore. And
Well, it's Bible.
I've had, and the thing, yeah, it's a both a Christian Southern rock band and a Bible reference, and I've actually had church people, like Christian church people. What does your license plate mean?
Uh,
Um, do you read your Bible at all? Maybe.
do you understand what the Lord of the Word or the Word of the Lord actually is saying to you right now? Because I
I
don't
mean,
think you
the
do.
only thing I think I could make it any clearer is if I put a sticker right next to my license plate that says this is a stormtrooper designation.
You know what? Just for
With a little arrow that points to the license
I
plate.
think you should. I really think you should literally create a sticker that says that. That just says this is a stormtrooper designation and see how many people ask you the same question every time.
Oh, it'll be 100% of the time.
It's like, but anyways,
What's a stormtrooper designation? Oh boy.
but anyways,
That's why I got the red mark on my forehead.
that's why we need to move on from the story. So,
All right. So,
yes, so the origin, man.
this episode, and the next episode are really going to be, and we're going to do more of these episodes, but they're really going to be, character, profile, episodes. And, the Predator isn't really a character per se. It's more of a race or a species than it is like an individual character, right? Because it's not just one Predator.
Right, it's a multitude. It's not just like it's like when we were talking about like our super fight, right? It's not just when I had the Apache warrior, right? It's not just if it said plural, like right, like Apache warriors, like that's the kind of whole
Right.
concept of like this. It's like predators, yes, it's a species, it's a whole race. There's multitudes of them. That's not just like, oh, we're just gonna have one and that's it.
Yeah.
There's no population.
So there's not just one individual predator. It's a race of these extraterrestrial hunters. Um, and looking them up, the actual name that they have, and it's kind of hard to pronounce. Looking at how it's spelled, and it's spelled, Yautja.
I'm gonna say it's Yauta.
Yaucha. Pretty close though.
Yucha. Oh, okay, Yucha. Yep.
So these, the predators are actually called Yauchas.
I feel like that can go in many different directions when the way you say it. I don't know. I'm just saying that's just
Well, they're Yauchas.
I don't know.
That's what they're called. I mean,
no, I I get it.
I didn't make it up.
I know. But
Um,
anyways,
But there is actually very little known about where they come from. From what I can tell, their home planet's nicknamed Yaucha Prime, but there isn't like an official name for their home planet. Um, but their home planet has from what comic books and movies have shown, it's said to have at least two different types of climates. So it has like, you know, a dry, hot kind of desert environment, and it has like, rivers of lava flowing. And then there's areas on the planet that are, kind of wet jungle, rainforest type areas.
So, because I'm thinking of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like in like the Predator, like the original one. So, when they're in the jungle, I mean, granted, they don't know anything about this creature or like what it does at the time, but the fact that they're in a forest, jungle, whatever you want to call it, like probably not a good idea. Now, granted, if they had this information, they probably never would have gone to the jungle or gone to like a forestry, like kind of area because clearly they were way out of their elements on that piece.
Yes.
Uh,
If they knew what they were hunting to begin with, maybe they would have been better prepared, but
I mean, right? I understand it's a movie; no one's gonna know
yeah.
like what the premise is, but I'm just saying, like,
So the whole predator culture, it revolves around, hunting and stalking prey. And they hunt not for, I mean, I'm sure that they do hunt for food on some level. Um, but they're more of a sportsmanship and rites of passage than they are for just outright killing, and won't, they usually won't attack life forms that they deem not a challenge or weaker than themselves.
so I know this is gonna sound weird, but like, excuse me, I know playing Mortal Kombat. I know this is kind of like a random thing, but like one of the like when you do like the fatalities or whatever, like at the very end, I do remember like it's showing like the different like skeletons or like the skulls of like the different species that they've collected and hunted and whatnot. Like, is that like their way of like showing like, oh hey, look, I've conquered this set of species or I've done this and that. Like, I feel like that's
Yes.
something.
Yes, so that's definitely something that they do. They do tend to, like, they'll skin, their kills, they'll decapitate, but they usually won't just collect the skulls, I guess, if they can help it. They'll usually take the skull with the spine attached.
See, that just seems weird of why you'd want to keep both, especially like connected like that.
'Cause it's more of a trophy. So
Well, I mean, the skull
for
could be a trophy though.
for the Yaucha, they go through a rite of passage. So they will send, the young Yaucha out for their rite of passage, and they literally, like, I almost kind of think of it as maybe Native American tribes. Like,
Yeah.
they will
Okay.
send them out, and literally they cannot return unless they have proven that they're warriors.
Right. I mean, usually it's they usually take like peyote and then they're like they're on a spirit quest basically, and then they come back and they transform in some way. But I don't know if it's. I mean, it's clearly not like that.
I mean, it
But
depends on the tribe, I guess. But if you're sending a warrior out and they come back like with, maybe a singular skull or something, that that obviously is not going to be enough for the rite of passage for, the predator culture. So they would have to prove that they can hunt, they can survive a hunt, they can survive getting attacked, and they can survive on their own.
yeah, I mean, but then the real question is like what defines that? Like, how does some like for them like how do they define what exactly is a warrior and how do they like what I'm saying? Like, but it doesn't necessarily say that. I get it, but
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it's not clear because it doesn't say it in the stuff that I've seen. Does it exist? I'm sure it exists somewhere, but they must have some kind of a measuring stick of, this is what we're, because in the predator culture, they have what they called blooded and unblooded.
Okay.
So typically, like they would send, the unblooded um, to prove themselves in battle. And that's basically, I think, the measuring stick is they need, these younger predators to prove themselves in battle. And obviously, if they, and they go and they screw off somewhere and they don't battle anything, they're going to come back and,
I feel like they're gonna get like disowned at that point, like like exiled from what the huge is
yeah,
as itself, like as the core, because it's like even in most cultures, like especially if let's say Romans or something like that, if you're not proving your your worthiness, I mean they'll exile you in a heartbeat. So it's like it's almost that same aspect of like, okay, yep, you know what, you're gonna have to prove to us that you're gonna do this, but if you don't do it, then be like, all right, well, good luck on your own because that's it. Like there's nothing more to it than that. But
yeah. And that's, I think, the whole goal for these, tribes of Yaucha is, I think they would want to become blooded once they become of age, because the unblooded are looked down on because they're not proven, they're not, worthy enough to do certain things.
then you kind of look at the whole squire versus knight, right? Because like the squire, it's someone that's training to be a knight, and I guess it's like the assistant to the knight. But it's in that same regard because it's like you're treated like crap until you prove
Right.
that you can be one.
Yeah. And so, um, if they are immobilized, they are, trained to basically they have like, and it's seen in the original Predator movie. I don't know if it's seen in much of the other ones, but they do have like kind of this like explosive self-destruct kind of mechanism that they wear on their wrist.
Right. It almost looks like a because
It's
can it?
it's a, it's a gauntlet that they wear, but
Well, I was wondering, does it almost look like a Wolverine, like like retractable claws kind of a thing? Like I felt like doesn't it have like two
it
like
does. But I
claws?
think they come out from underneath it.
Oh well, so what? I mean, whether it's the top or bottom, I mean it's almost
Yeah.
identical. But
So they want to be able to, and the whole point of their this device is that they need to erase any presence of their existence for their prey. So if they're hunting humans, they need to be able to completely erase the fact that they were even there. So this eliminates their body, everything. So it's a
yeah.
pretty powerful explosion.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound any
No,
pleasant
it's not. It's
whatsoever.
not great. And then the last thing that I have in a couple of the newer movies, like Predators and The Predator, it was revealed that there's at least two different types of Yaucha that exist. I'm sure there's more, but it showed that there are at least two, which they're kind of the one of the tribes is called, dubbed the super predators. They were much larger, and they had actually um they had these like pack of beast, they're kind of like dogs, but they had like spines on the back of their, on the backs, on their spines,
Yeah.
and they were called flushing dogs. But they were, they had the same kind of mouth as the predator. Very vicious looking things.
Would you want to have one as a pet?
If it didn't kill me, sure.
So I know what to get you for Christmas now. No, I'm kidding.
But that's what the super predator is basically used for hunting. And, they would, like a regular hunter, like hunting for, ducks, they would, send out the dogs.
Okay, so like a hunting party in a sense, yeah.
Right. So they would send out the dogs, and then these super predators would go, and get whatever they found.
Hmm.
But these movies really revealed that these two different tribes are kind of in like this lifelong feud, and they don't get along whatsoever.
That could go like if we're talking about history, like that's like any war that we have now.
And it very well could be. I mean, typically, like what the lore for the Yauchas, that they actually don't reach physical maturity until they reach like 50 or 60.
Well, then the real question is how old are they? Like reality, like some of the, you
I'm
know,
I'm guessing they can get pretty old if they're not like they're not like not adults, but
right.
physical maturity would be 50 or 60 years old.
So then it's almost like looking at like Grogu, like granted he's like, you know, what,
So
like a
that
couple hundred years old, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like if it's the physical, maturity level of a 50 or 60 is like not even old enough to be an adult in a sense. It's more like a kid.
I mean, probably what, like 16-year-old maybe? Like, you're
That's
talking like a young, like just coming into, physical maturity.
right. So like that, but that's, it's pretty sad because like, when we look at a 50 or 60-year-old in our society, it's like, oh shit, they're pretty wise, they lived a life, they've done their stuff, but like these guys are like, oh yeah, you're just a kid. What? Like,
Yeah,
but again, like we don't know like how old they can be, and that
right.
probably plays the whole
When
thing.
you reach, 153, let
Yeah,
me know.
let me know how you really act now.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute, wait, I gotta wait another 100 years just to catch up with you. You're like, yep. That's their 21. I forgot. Yeah, right. What 150, 153. It's all good.
But that, I
Um,
mean, that's pretty much like the history and origin. They're very much like a hunting species. Like that's what they do. They'll go out and they'll send out these unblooded Yauchas to basically prove themselves, and that whole thing of getting the trophies and bringing them back, that's their proof that they you know proven themselves in a battle.
so in the very first Predator, okay, would that be a unblooded or a blooded? That was what they were like versing at the time.
It's hard to say. I would have to say that based on the movie and what he was doing, I would have to say probably unblooded. Because I would have to say if that predator from that movie was blooded, Arnold would have been toast. And I truly believe that because they were proven in battle, and that one in that movie, I mean, even though like he and pretty much annihilated that whole group,
Right.
was kind of dumb. I mean, he fell for a lot of traps that were pretty basic. I mean, it was Arnold building traps out of like wood and string. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if he was blooded, you're probably right. I mean, he would probably, you know, probably oversee everything, kind of have a tactical advantage in all the scenarios, and also probably wouldn't even allow half that stuff to happen because he probably would have annihilated them
and I
in
think
an
it
instant.
goes down to experience too. I think Blooded would have that experience of being on several hunts and being on several of those battles where
Right.
Unbloodeds are unproven, so they haven't been part of it. That's the whole reason they were sent out.
Right. To do it on their own so that if they're with a group of predators, then yeah, they can keep them, they're capable, they're ready to,
Yeah.
to show them that, hey, I can do this. And whether I'm with you or not, like, I got your back. Um,
All right, John, what do they look like?
well, Matt, I can tell you from what I remember is they were pretty tall, but I will say that from looking and, kind of reading some of this as well, is yes, they're over 7 feet tall. So let's take some of the tallest people in the world. Let's say some basketball players. Okay. I'm gonna go with like Yao Ming. Okay. Or like, the Big Show. Okay. I'm granted not a basketball player, but wrestler, right? So imagine that size, just standing straight up, 7 feet tall. Okay. Now, the worst part about this is when you look at their height, okay, and you look how tall they are, right? Now, granted, I'm not seeing how much they weigh. I don't know exactly how much they weigh, but I'm assuming it's got to be.
You know what's interesting? I
Well, hold on.
when
I feel like it's going to be like a few hundred pounds, in my opinion.
well,
But
yeah, I mean when and I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming it'll probably be like at least 3 to 4 maybe, but when Danielle and I went to Salem, Mass, we went to this museum,
Yeah.
and in this museum, like, it was basically like a horror museum.
What, did it have a predator in it?
It actually had a predator and an alien fighting. It was kind of in the middle, but it was a full-size statue, and the predator and the alien were movie replica full size, like, statue in the middle of the floor.
Did you actually take a photo with this thing?
See, inside the museum, you couldn't take
Oh,
photos,
yeah.
but
Okay.
this thing, I can tell you right now, easily had to be 7.5, probably closer to 8, and this thing's legs were probably like 2 of my legs put together. Like, it was huge.
Now, now, granted, I know this thing is like extremely muscular. Has a a bigger build, like ready to
Yeah.
go. So you've like one person versus this thing. No, I don't see anybody one on one like hand to hand combat. Like it ain't good luck. Like
No.
you better
This thing
be.
this thing was huge. And not I mean, the statue itself was crazy awesome. Like, I'm looking at this thing like I really wish I could take a picture of it, cuz I mean, this thing was like, you're talking like a predator, and the aliens coming at him, he's holding the head, and it was awesome.
Hmm. So the one thing that I know is interesting is of course the iconic like mouth that he
Oh
has.
yeah, yeah.
Like it's like the four flaps. It's the what it is. It's the four arthropod like mandibles, right? So it's like fangs on the four corners.
Like a spider. Like
Yeah,
a you know, s-
like the little fangs coming out. But like in this case, it's like all four of them just like working together. And it honestly, like if that was in your face, I'm not gonna lie, I probably would pee myself. Like I would like if I was laying in bed and all of a sudden this thing came right at me with its mouth,
and started roaring or screaming. Yeah.
I would be like, I'm done. I'm probably peeing myself. I'm like, I'm done. Like I don't know what to say unless I had. Yeah, there's actually, you know what? There's no way. I'm sorry, but yes. So the one other interesting thing is the hair. So I know when I saw the Predator, for the first time, yes, it did remind me of like dreadlocks, like with the hair itself. But
Which is not actually hair. It's like hair like appendages. They're If you watch Star Wars at all,
yeah, of course.
there's a race called Twi'leks that have like the long, appendages that come out of their
Oh,
head.
wait a minute. Is it we're talking about like Jabba the Hutt, like his like it's like the pink guy that he's like standing next to?
Yeah,
That guy? Okay, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Ahsoka is one of them.
Oh,
She
oh, oh.
has like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like the long, yeah.
It's sort of like those, except they're just different. But they're not actual hair.
Well, it also kind of reminds me of like Avatar. You know what I mean? Like I mean, granted, it's the like the long, like ponytail, like looking hair, but I mean, granted, they can connect with the world, but I kind of think it's maybe the same, but maybe I'm off. I don't know. But I mean, yes, it does look like dreadlocks, but like Matt was saying, it's not exactly that at all. It's just attached to their heads, and does it actually have a purpose? Like, is there like a?
I didn't see a particular purpose. I'm sure it does have a purpose. Um,
I would just be curious. I mean, if it's more for like helping them like sense, like, and I know like their armor and their basically
I think it's
like
just
shield or
I
whatever on
think
their
it's just
face,
like part of their species. Like, it's
or just
just
yeah,
their
just their thing.
it's just like an appendage. Like,
Yeah. Okay. So just a look. I mean, that's fine.
yeah.
Um, and then yes, I mean, of course, with the predator, it's the reptile kind of like skin. The really hard, gritty, kind of like almost like a crocodile or like some kind of like
Snake.
snake, crocodile, something around there, right? And then um, yeah, the because I mean, granted, it's usually green, or it's like no, I should rephrase that. It's more of like a grayish green, maybe
Yeah, I
in
mean, they
that
can all
ground. Like
vary. It depends on each one. Like, each one can have different colorings, and I don't know if you've played. I think the game was called Hunting Ground.
No, no, I haven't played that game.
But in the game, you can actually change your skin color in the game.
What, to match like a predator in a sense, or like
Well,
or
when
just in
you're
general?
when you're playing as a predator, you can change you can be like more reddish, more yellow, more green. Like you can actually change the skin color.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so this one's interesting. I mean, the fact that they're resilient to damage. So like any kind of, you know, like bullets or, radiation, stuff of that nature, things that would, of course kill somebody. Like these guys are just like they're a walking medical kit and they don't even need to do anything. Like they
Well,
just
they do have their own like in the original Predator movie, like they have their own. I guess it's like kind of an injectable
oh, like
that.
okay, like a syringe kind of like a
Yeah, so they kind of inject themselves and it heals their wound or at least like cauterizes it.
yeah, so again, so even if you damage this thing, good luck cuz it's going to find a way to, treat itself and but even then, like even in like worse conditions or like things that again would kill a human being, like they're just like, "Yeah, no problem. We got you. We can
Yeah.
survive this."
So they have a pretty interesting color of blood, right?
Mhm. We sure do. And if I'm not mistaken, it is the no. Sorry, it's green. Yes. I was about to say blue, but then I'm like, no, it's not blue.
No.
The pit is blue. No, sorry. But yes, no, it's green. So
It's very like neon
yeah,
green.
it
Yeah.
it's really it definitely does stand out. I mean, if you could, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how Arnold figured out where the predator was because it was cloaked at the time because he saw like on the bushes and like the different
Yeah.
stuff
I'm
like
pretty sure that's how they have used it in every
yeah,
movie.
because that's the only way you could track it. As long as you find a way to hurt it, it's you're gonna see a pool of blood that's just green.
Right.
It's not normal.
But doing research on their blood actually is interesting because I didn't actually know this until I looked it up. But I think in one of the Predator versus Alien movies, and I don't know if they do this in the movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but from doing the research, their blood is said to de-acidify a xenomorph's blood, which, if you know anything about Alien, their blood is acid.
So basically, it would neutralize.
It would neutralize the alien blood and make it non-acidic,
Hmm.
which is interesting to me.
Well, it's interesting, but I mean, in that case, I mean, technically, it would probably like if the predator was like, you know what, I'm gonna inject my own blood into this alien, it's probably more likely gonna kill it
I mean,
because
maybe, but
maybe, or
maybe not.
I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting theory. I don't know. Why don't you guys find out? Because I like to know. Um, and then yeah, I mean, for the most part, like another interesting fact is like yes, they're as you can probably tell in the movies is that they can go really quick up a tree or like they know how to climb things really quickly and that's also why when they use their cloak and everything else like they're natural born again predators they find ways to like take advantage of whatever environment that they're in. So if like again if you're in a jungle, yep, you're gonna know that this thing's probably like probably climbing through the trees, going into different vantage points, higher cliffs, whatever. I mean, it's gonna find a way to like take the high point in things. And so,
Yeah,
you can probably figure out that if a predator was, running through the trees, you can probably hear the crackling of the branches that once he jumps off and things like that, that could help you a little bit. But if it's moving quick enough, I don't think you're gonna know where exactly it's gonna be at and where it's actually gonna go. But yeah, so I know that their mask um basically has like it's like an infrared, right? Like that's how they see, that's how they like view things and whatnot, which actually helps because it's especially if you're, I would say probably not more in a, or maybe it would help in a forest. I mean, I guess that's kind of like the best example is like when you watch the first one, he can tell where the heat is coming from. So even if you're hiding behind a rock, guess what? He gonna know that there's heat coming from around the rock or something like that. He's gonna know that there's some kind of like heat signature that someone's gonna be around the
yeah.
corner. So I mean, in that case, it helps, but I don't know how it would help in like a desert.
Well, I mean, their mask also can switch to low infrared and high ultraviolet, which I believe the high ultraviolet is what they use for the alien,
Oh, okay.
because the alien doesn't actually give off heat. They
Ah,
use something else to track them.
well, the ultraviolet rays. I mean, it's really just sun. So it's like unless they're giving some kind of like sun rays or
Yeah.
some kind of rays or something like, yeah, that's the only way they could find them, track them, whatever.
But
Um,
they're able to switch between, the different modes depending on the situation. So, I mean, if their original planet from wherever they're from has that desert like atmosphere, they must be able to see fairly well. You know what I
I
mean?
mean
Because,
that, but that with like infrared though.
well, maybe not with
I
infrared,
mean, it
but
would have to be like a different, setting or whatever you want to call it. But like, yeah, they would have to find a way to make sure that they, can see their environment. But I know when they take off their mask, like it's like two little beady eyes. It looks really weird. Like when you
yeah,
look at them.
well, I mean, I think their vision generally isn't good without the mask. So,
I mean, that's kind of why, like in the first Predator, it's like maybe that's why he probably is dumb because he can't see like where he's going and like what he's stepping into. But
yeah.
um, I don't know. I'd just be curious, like how, like would they need to wear glasses? Like is it really that bad to the point where they really do need to rely on the 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 infrared or the ultraviolet rays just because of that because they know they can't see. They're just natural born.
And I think that
You
that's
know.
just where the mask comes in. It helps make their vision clearer. The climates that they're generally in, they may not have that issue seeing generally. So,
True. I mean, I understand that Earth is a lot different than, most planets in general, but I mean,
and I would think, if you have, Yautja tribes that live in that desert type atmosphere, they're going to be more used to, living and thriving and seeing and being in that atmosphere. Whereas you take one from the jungle, put it in the desert, it may struggle because it's not used to that dryness, and
I mean, even as humans, I mean, you know, I will say that I'm not saying that people can't live out in the desert, but realistically,
we can't.
you can't really grow anything. That's the problem. Like, there's no way to like grow vegetation or live off of the land. If you're eating sand, it's kind of gross. I'm not gonna lie, but
Yeah.
in general, but yeah, I can't even imagine like how they if they're living in a world where it's literally dry, it's desert like, and all this other stuff, like how do they survive? Is there, is there like vegetation, like all this other stuff? Again, I know you don't know the backstory on like
And
where
that
they're
would
at,
be, I
but
think that would be, it's hard because predators don't just like, they don't talk English, and that's where like the difficulty lies. Like, you don't just have like a smart predator that's all of a sudden going to be like, hey guys, how's it going?
like, hey, Bill, and you're like, wait a minute, this guy just talked to
So,
me.
they don't talk like our language, even though, yes. And I might as well just get into the language bit now. Like, there has been moments, where, in the original movie and in Predator 2, there is scenes where they're mimicking human language. In Predator 2, there's scenes where you'll hear somebody call out something, and then the predator will basically repeat
But
what
so
the
he's,
person's
but
saying, but he's just making those noises like a bird.
it's like it's mimicry, like
Yeah.
it's just like repeating everything. Yeah,
It's like birds hearing, car alarms, and then you hear birds now going pew 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 pew, and it's like these birds didn't sound like this like 20, 30 years ago.
no, I mean they're a lot smarter now. I mean, depending on what kind of bird you have, but yeah.
I mean, they're probably robots anyways, but anyways, we'll go
Oh,
somewhere else.
wow, okay.
We'll go
Talking
somewhere.
about, hold on,
We'll go back to Predator now.
yeah, okay, yeah, Terminator. Anyways,
So yes, they have mimicked, human voices, but I think that that's where it goes. So I think, yes, like I think it would be interesting, John, to if they could come up with some kind of a story of showing predator culture from their home planet. And I know it's tricky because, like, yes, they don't speak English. So how do you have, a main character like Predator be a main character? Well, you have to have villains, and that's where humans come in. And you already have, predators and the predator, right? Where predators have attacked humans here on this planet.
Right, right.
So it's not too, you know,
Like far fetched. Yeah.
far fetched to say, as a human race, we can go, we're going to bring the fight to them. Yes, I understand that this is basically Avatar,
I mean, basically, yeah.
but it's not, because it's not people taking over fake bodies of weird native blue people.
Well, okay. I mean,
But
but yeah.
it would be interesting to, show predator culture and to give that backstory of predator culture.
Then I would feel like it would need to be a prequel.
Well, it definitely would be a prequel,
Well, that's what I'm
but
saying,
it
though.
would be just that interesting story where you can show their home planet, you can show, what their rite of passage is, and we would know through this, the vehicle of this movie, predator culture as a whole.
Right.
Language from the predators, it does show, that their written language is, I mean, for us it kind of just looks like hieroglyphics, because it's sort of like, just patterns of dashes.
So, like symbols of some sort.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for us it would look like symbols, but for them, um I guess if you were gonna like label it as anything, it would be kind of like similar to like Asian writing, where it's,
Okay.
you
Yeah,
know
like dashes and like different ways of doing it. Yeah.
right, so it's more of literal dashes in those shapes
Okay.
that I guess would maybe form, words or numbers. And that, it's written on their helmets, on their, architecture. um so it's obviously like their written form of language. And most commonly, I guess their vocalizations are more of like, the most popular is the clicks. They make that clicking noise, which is pretty popular. But they do, roars and snarls and, growls. But
You know,
most popular, they do that clicking. And the clicking that they make, and I do have a recording which we will play in a second.
that's good because I was wondering if you were going to
Yes.
play it. Yes.
Um, I just want to preface it first, but the clicking actually does have a purpose, and it's more of like an echolocation.
Oh, so like a bat, like in some regards.
Yeah, so it's really to, I guess, track prey to, when predators make that clicking sound, they can also entice like other potential predators like away from the prey that they're hunting. So when they make
Mhm.
that noise, other Yauchas that might be, hunting will hear it and know, nope, this one's taken. So let's go for something else. Um, but generally, like, they will make that clicking to basically listen to see if, is the prey in this area? Is it, echoing back? So it's said to be more of like an echolocation type thing. But I did, and it took me a while to make this recording, but I actually did record this sound on my own.
Yes, and it's not copyrighted. It's not anything else. It's literally his voice. And believe it or not, I heard it, and I'll tell you, you'll have to listen to it, but it's actually pretty good. So when I heard this for the first time, I literally didn't even realize that he literally had to like break this up because I honestly thought it was like he did it, he stopped, he did it, he stopped, and then so on and so forth. But no, that was what I mean. Matt's going to explain, but it was actually multiple takes, unfortunately. But it it's to the point where I'm like, I honestly thought like you could have just taken the actual predator and just like maybe did like a voiceover for him in that sense. You could have actually maybe hell, I mean, you could have taken over for Peter Cullen, right? Because he was the one that did it.
Peter Cullen was actually the guy who did the original, Predator click noise, like you just heard. Obviously, his is, 100% better than mine.
Hashtag Matt Gunther for Predator.
But yes, I could have easily, gone on YouTube and pulled a clip out and, remixed it myself. But, I was really sitting there and, I watched videos on how people did it. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, maybe I'll give it a try and practice it. And, that clip itself, yes, it's one continuous clip that I broke into 3 segments to make it, sound more of like, he's making 3 distinct noises.
Right. I mean, and that was the thing where it like when you first hear it for the first time of like if you said, "Hey, this is my voice," I would have been like, "Where'd you copyright that from?" Because I don't know what you're talking about because I feel like that would have never been your voice. But
My wife actually said that. She's convinced it's not my voice, and I can guarantee you that's my voice because if you heard the original recording, it's god awful.
I mean, all I could say is Matt tries to do it at first, and it almost sounds like he's Chewbacca. Like at first, and then he like goes into it. But I'm just like, I couldn't help but laugh. But I mean, for the most part, I mean, it makes sense with the clicking because if that's their way of like letting others know and actually just kind of like allowing them to figure out like where they're at and like maybe where their prey is and kind of like kind of get that tracking like that's a good way of tracking like what they're doing at that
Yeah.
time. I think that makes sense for them, but I mean, as humans we're idiots and we decide to, hey Bill, what are you doing over there? And you're like, wait a minute, shut up, man. The duck just flew away because you just said, hey Bill, like why are you doing that? Like for them it's like it could be anything. I mean, you don't know what the noise is, but for as humans we might hear that and we're like,
And it could, I mean, I guess they could probably also use it like kind of as a scare factor too, especially with like humans when you're hearing it, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, what is that? Like, what is it?
well,
Like,
because it's not normal. It's not like something you hear, like if you're out in the middle of a forest or something like
oh,
that.
definitely, yeah.
You're not gonna, you'll know, like for example, like if a bear's coming, like you'll hear the growl, or like a lion or something like that. You'll know the sound of it, but this is not something you would hear
No,
out
and
of the
if you're
clear blue.
hearing that, he's probably sitting right behind you, and you're probably about to die.
So Matt, if you randomly hear clicks right behind you right now, I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
Um, all right, moving on.
Anyways,
So the movies, and we'll kind of briefly go into the movies because we are running out of time here. But the movies so far that Predators have been in, you have the 2 original movies, which is Predator and Predator 2. Those were 87 and 1990. You have AVP, which is Alien versus Predator, which came out in 2004, which this one and Alien versus Predator Requiem. I never say that word right. Requiem.
Requiem.
It
Right?
always sounds weird,
Ready?
yeah.
Ready? Requiem.
Anyways, that came out in 2007, and both AVP movies, there are pretty serious debates on whether or not the movie is canon.
Okay. Probably for people who don't know, AVP is Alien versus Predator. I understand that, if you're a fan of these movies and everything else, you might know, but like if you really don't know, that's what it stands for. Just so clarification, we want you guys to know that. But I mean, me personally, if I'm gonna choose between an Alien versus a Predator, I'm probably. I mean, I understand that Alien has like certain things, and I know we're gonna talk about that more in the next episode. But like, I think the Predator, in a lot of ways, probably has a better advantage in some regards. I mean, the tracking ability and the echolocation and like it's certain abilities like that, climbing and everything else.
It's debatable, but
I'm going with Predator. That's just me.
like I was saying, I mean, there's a lot that are debating whether or not these 2 movies are part of the Predator story or if it's in its own kind of expanded universe. Um, so you also have Predators, which came out in 2010. they introduced, like I said before, the super predators. You have the Predator, which came out in 2018, and you have Prey, which I believe was only on Hulu, and it was I believe a Hulu original. And
Never seen it, but yeah.
this is the movie when it came out, basically kind of retcons the AVPR storylines because of the basically like the timeline of when the alien appears in that movie and the timeline of Alien versus Predator. Like the timelines don't match up, so it and that's where the debates come because initially they said that the aliens appeared, I believe, before that. And then when Prey came out, the first, like the very first Predator arrived in like 1750 or something. And that's when this movie takes place.
So I know it's kind of like a weird one, but isn't there like a prequel to Alien? I remember seeing it. It's not so much. I don't know
Well,
if
we're
it.
not talking Alien, we're just talking Predator.
Well, no, I get it. I understand that, but I was just asking if there was a prequel to like Alien itself, though. That's all I was asking.
Yeah, we'll get to it the next
Okay. Well,
episode.
I
Yeah,
okay. I
there
was just
are.
saying. All right.
There's a couple.
I figured there was. I was
Yeah,
just asking.
there's a couple.
But the one thing.
It's interesting. I mean, not to cut you off, but it is interesting whether or not, these are not canon or are canon. Um, I'm on the fence 50-50. I actually like both of these, but it would make sense if they're not.
Well, I feel like they shouldn't really be. You know, like it kind of should be separate. I mean, it really because the characters are different, and the stories are different. So I mean, it would kind of make sense if it was separate and not so much part of
I
the same thing.
I mean, Alien versus Predator, I absolutely love, but when it comes to them creating the Pred Alien, that's where it got weird for me. But I think it does better if you think of it as an expanded universe.
Yeah,
But what those movies do is it actually does kind of because the Predators in those, whether they were nicknames or they actually had names, um, they actually did have like some kind of a nickname in those movies.
huh? Okay.
And then one, did the scarring on his outer helmet
Oh,
with the
yeah.
with the alien blood and everything. But they do better with their own kind of expanded universe. So if you take, the first two Predators, and then the Predator, those are, you know, the story, and then Prey is a prequel that starts it all,
Huh. Okay.
which is interesting.
Yeah, but I was gonna mention like the game that both Matt and I played was called Ghost Recon Wildlands. Now, if you ever played that game, it's an amazing game. I honestly wanted to replay it with Matt again, but it's an amazing game, and it actually shows um, Predator in this particular game as well. It's actually like a little side DLC that you can do, but basically
I don't think you can do it anymore, actually.
you can't. Oh man, because what happens is you basically track. You get this mission basically, and you have to like track down like this weird sighting of this creature or whatever, and
Yeah,
you basically do a few missions, and then
and you hear the clicking.
you do, and it's
Yeah,
exactly like the movies and everything. And then when you actually get to the last part of the the, the DLC, or really the last mission, you actually get to verse said Predator.
oh
And
yes.
I will tell you this now. My experience is totally different than Matt's, but this is the way I remember it. Is I remember.
He annihilated you.
Yes, he did. Okay, thank you. I was gonna get there, but anyways, so the issue is like if you're using your AI, buddies in the game, like when I did it. I couldn't even tell you how many times. I'm pretty sure I rage quit because I was like, I'm done. I do not want to do this anymore. But I did it so many times to the point where I was like, like, how do you defeat this guy? Now, the funny thing is that Matt and I did this a few times together, and we only had two AIs as well. We could not, for the life of us, together, we couldn't even do it because we basically one of us needed to be bait and the other one needed to like keep shooting, and it
Yeah.
didn't matter. And so I'm gonna let Matt tell his little experience because He had a much better time than I did.
Well, I mean, I almost rage quit myself, but when we played, and I think when we play co-op, we don't have AI.
I thought we did. I thought we had two.
No, I think when we play,
Oh, it was only the two of us.
we don't
No, you're
get
right.
them, so we don't have AI. So, and that was like the issue was there was no bait. And the whole thing with, trying to beat this predator, you need those AI players because all they do is run around, and that's all I basically did is I hid. The AI guys were running around trying to shoot this thing, and he would only appear a very minuscule amount of time. And so when he appeared, that was like the only opportunity you have to maybe shoot for 5 seconds.
And normally you'd pretty much use a sniper because unless you're using your, let's say like M16 or something like that, you're not going to hit it that far, or it's pretty hard to hit it from that far. So that's why like a sniper or like a grenade launcher or something like that you can use really quickly, and then
Yeah,
like
and it used its invisibility, so you couldn't see it until it reappeared, and then you could take your shot, and then it would go back to invisible.
well, sometimes you could tell where it was going because you could see like the outline. So like if you were looking at, let's say you were behind a tree and it was just like going back into like this open spot, like you could tell where it was going at the time, but it was hard because even when it runs away, even if you try to shoot at it, it's actually not doing any damage. Like that's the worst part from
Yeah,
what I remember because even if it's cloaked, you're not really having that window of
it took a
opportunity.
long it took a long time, and I think it took me probably 4 or 5 tries to get it. But on that last try, the AI is running around. I'm just shooting, and then I'm ducking. Like I'm literally not doing anything other than hiding until this thing appears, and then I'm shooting and then hiding again, and I'm moving, and these guys are just keeping it busy, so they're he's busy looking at them and not at me because I'm not shooting them.
No, but the problem was is the AI would die pretty quickly. It wasn't like, you might get a
Yeah,
shot or two, but honestly, your AI companions, yeah, they're going to help each other out. But if they're all dead and you're it, like that's it.
yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't easy because it was definitely hard, and I had to revive them multiple times. But finally, on that last try, we finally killed him, and it was totally worth it. Totally worth it because I did get like the helmet, which I don't even think in the game I even wear, but I did get like the little hand blade.
Yeah, and then he showed it off to me, and I was like, "You're a jerk." He's like, "What? You didn't do it?" I'm like, "I did. I did it. I think I did it about 10 or 15 times, and then I was like, I am so done because if I pick up this controller again and try it like 20 more, 50 more, like it was to the point where I'm like, I'm done. I really do not want to play this mission ever again." And then we kept playing the game, whatever. But I mean, Predator does show up in like different video games. So like I mentioned, like Mortal Kombat, like was one that he did show up in. I think it was in like, was it 10? I think it was like one of the early, like
I
the
really
newer
haven't
ones.
played any of the newer Mortal
I think it
Kombat.
was either in, I think it was in 10, but it was interesting because, no, actually, I think it was in 9. Um, but it was interesting because you could actually play as him. You can actually, do certain moves, and it actually, like I said, with the end of a fight, if like you won, it basically showed like he would go into this like I don't know if it was his ship or his like little home or whatever, but it would show like all the different like skeletons or like I guess in this case, like you said, like the spine and the actual skull, and it would like he would put it on his like little trophy, but it actually shows like I'm pretty sure like everyone in that like realm. So like it would show um like all the fallen warriors like Liu Kang and all them. Like it was pretty clear as day. Like he had everybody up there. But um yeah, I mean Predator, I would say as a whole, you know, interesting character. I mean, definitely an interesting backstory when it comes to you know their culture a little bit. The language that they use to like track certain prey and in the way they use it in that way. Um, you know, if again, if for real, if this thing was a real life thing, I don't know exactly how we would actually defeat it. unless we'd have to like unless they sent only the unblooded predators, maybe we might have a fighting chance. But if it's a blooded one, I don't think we do. And even if it's versus one, because I mean, I feel like if you had maybe like I mean, you would have to seriously like have like a nuke and like you'd have to like if it was standing in one spot, you'd have to like put all your firepower into this one spot and maybe
Yeah.
you'd kill it.
I mean, yeah, as a character, like I love Predator. Like it's as a character, like I love the idea of the Predator. I love the story. I love the you know the history, and I wish they could dive into that more somehow. That's I don't, I know Disney and I know what they do with rated R movies, and I don't really care to go into that anymore than we already have. But I would love to know more about like their backstory, whether they do a TV show or a movie, like some kind of content where we can actually see it, learn about it, and experience it.
If they're gonna do it, I would hope they would do a movie, just because you could do a TV show, but I feel like knowing Disney, I feel like they're gonna screw it up somehow if they do a TV show. I think if they did a movie,
It really depends. It
I,
depends on who, who's helming the project, and
I mean, right? But I mean, personally, I think a movie might be at least would give it some justice. I think if you do a TV show, depending on who's directing it and who's going to be doing it, I
yeah.
don't know if it's going to do it justice.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it depends on who, who's doing it and everything. Well, that's it for this episode. We want to take a moment to thank you for listening and continuing to support us. It truly does mean a lot. And here at GFTM Podcast, we strive for excellence in everything that we produce, whether it's this podcast, our geeky shorts, or even the post that we do on social media. With that said, in order for us to improve and get better, we need your feedback. So whether you have a show or a topic idea that you'd like to talk to us about, or you have critiques about how we are currently doing things, whether it's good or bad, we ask that you reach out to us. Send us a message either through our social media or through our website, which you can find all the links to those and more on our Linktree link that's listed on every episode description, including this one. So we invite you to join us again next week as we'll be diving into another character profile, this time featuring the Xenomorph from the Alien franchise. Until then, stay geeky.